Thank you very much. Yeah, first of all, thank you very much to let me be part of this cyber advent. I'm really happy to be inside of this calendar. And yeah, today I would like to share you something that I have been working into this year, which is using internet service providers and autonomous system numbers as a new type of indicators inside of threat intelligence and also inside of threat hunting. So, quickly introduction about me. My name is Sergio Albea. I'm working as threat hunting expert in Switch. Switch is the National Research and Education Network in Switzerland. So basically, we are working to secure the network and the systems of different education institutions, such as university, research centers in Switzerland. And also, we are managing the CH and LI domains. This year I have been accepted as a Microsoft MVP, so you can imagine that my background is really focused on Microsoft products. Regarding my hobbies, I love all things related to football, playing, watching, the same with music. And then I moved to Switzerland 6 years ago to work in this company in Switch. But I'm not from Switzerland. I'm from Spain, from a small village called Valls, close to Barcelona. And always in my presentation, I love to share two small things about my village, which is that we are the most and the best one building human castles. If you have the opportunity sometimes in Catalonia to see that is an amazing event. And the second one, that is one of the most curious uh, events that we have in my town, that is to see who can eat more onions in 1 hour. So after that, let's go to the topic. First of all, I will give you a quick introduction about the difference between ISPs, ISNs, then the advantage of this type of detections versus the traditional IOCs, URLs, domains, file hashes, then which are the expected results of these kind of detections, and then a bit of threat hunting to show you in the results how this new approach of these new kind of indicators can really help us to have more insights about possible attacks, possible threats. So regarding the difference between ISPs and ISN, ISP, Internet Service Provider, basically is the commercial company that give us access to their service, their internet service. Typical case, we are going to a new country where there are any data roaming option with our current phone company. So we can go, we can ask for a new card, and we'll have a new internet service provider that is sharing us a new internet service. How they are sharing this service? Basically, they are allowing us to access to a group of network and a range, as you can see here, an autonomous system. And to not remember all the autonomous system range IPs, what we are doing is using ISN. ISN is at the end is kind of an indicator that tell us which are the associated range of IPs. It's like DNS. We are not remembering Google ChatGPT IPs. If not, we remember the names, ChatGPT URL, Google.com, and we don't need to remember the IPs behind. No, so this is the same. This is the same, basically. Kind of indicator to understand which is the range of IPs associated to every ASN that is provided by the different ISPs. With these three aspects in mind, and taking account, as you see on top, that in 2022, we were having more than 30,000, but now we are really close to 40,000 different ISPs around the world. With these numbers, you can imagine that we have different types of ISPs and different levels of security, different levels of service that every one of them is providing. Basically, I can tell you that there are ISPs that when there is some attack associated to some of their IP ranges, could be that they don't take any action. They take months to react, for example. They invest the money invest to security policies, security tools, and others can be really low. versus other one, the secure ISPs, that they invest a lot of money for monitoring their IPs, firewalls, and other controls to be able to react in case that some of their IPs is being used for some malicious activity. And of course, what is happening nowadays? Most of the people go to the risk ISP. Why? Because are the cheapest ones. That's really sad, but there are important numbers that show this reality. So what happened and why I'm using this ISP and ASN as new indicators? This is a case that you can see here was in New York, and they were using more than 100,000 different SIM cards to trigger different attacks. If we want to respond the attack just based on an IP or a domain, that can be just a specific SIM card or SIM or specific a small rack, will be really difficult to be able to respond to that. No, so that's the reason also that I decided to go with these ISPs. I will show you the examples after these slides. So something that I recommend you if you want to start to work with these ISN ISPs is to go to URL House Abu CH. This is a really good place to collect different type of IOCs. And one of the options that they allow us to see is which is the reputation of their different ISN, as you can see here. So basically, at the end of the URL, you specify the autonomous system number, and it tells you how many sites has been observed with malware. And one of the most important time is the arrow that you can see in yellow, which is the average takedown time that this ISN is having to have a site down that is affected or is with some malware active. So as you can see here, it's telling you that if there is some malware site inside of this ISN, basically it can take around half month to take it down. So if I have my users connecting to some of these sites, I will be a bit worried about that. I will show you some evidence. And then we have even worse cases. If you can see here, there is another ISN that I was observing in my tenant. And I can tell you that the total IP observed that you see in the screenshot are not 17, they are more than 17. And the URL house is directly sharing you that this ISN is controlled by cyber criminals. So if you see connection coming from the IP range associated to this ISN, the 203.173, I will totally also investigate what is happening. So why this ISP detection is coming from? As I showed you before, if we are focused just in one IP or one domain, sometimes if we are lucky, one person that is receiving the attack or defender systems or CM solution could be that they have handled the risk and they have been able to respond or to communicate to CERT or another department to block this communication domain or also remove some malicious file that has been detected. But the reality is that, okay, we have blocked one domain or one URL, and perhaps we have the feeling that, okay, the hacker now will feel like, okay, what I can do now, I am blocked, but not. The reality is that they have thousands and thousands of different IPs of different domains to trigger their attacks. So I will say, I don't want to say the old method to block one domain or one URL, but is the traditional method, let's say. I think that nowadays is not really useful. So what is important is to understand that, as I said, we can block one IP or one domain, but they can trigger multiple attacks such as DDoS, phishing campaigns, and others. with a lot of another and distinct IPs and domains. So if we are able to detect ISPs where all the attacks or phishing or other type of threats are coming from the same ISP, that's really nice. Why? Because we can react before an attacker uses a new IP. We have an ISP that all the things that are coming from are malicious, such as uh, all the emails are received are tagged as spam, phishing, or malware. Okay, if we have another one that is coming from this ISP, totally it will take an action because the ratio that is malicious is really high. The same with reacting to possible DDoS attacks. I will show you a scenario in the next slides, so I will go further in the next slides about that. Then also the advantage is that we don't have to wait until a vendor tag an indicator as malicious. I suppose that some of you are using, for example, VirusTotal, and at the end with VirusTotal, you kind of rely until a vendor is tagging an indicator, a URL, domain, file hash as malicious to be able in a quick view if this URL domain is malicious. No, when you see a lot of red colors, a lot of vendors tagging as malicious, you know that it's not good. But if you are able to say, okay, all the things coming from these ISPs are malicious, you don't need to wait until this is happening. And yeah, exactly. So basically, if we are able to identify these ISPs, also will be able to reduce user impact because we don't have to wait until a user have received an email, has clicked on a link, because we will able to apply some proactivity. So now to show you all in real scenarios, what I will do is I will use SQL queries. SQL queries is the language that Microsoft is using for threat hunting. If you are working with SQL, basically is kind of copy paste. It's really similar. And if you are new on that, it's a really easy language. I'm really bad programming, and to be honest, this language for me was easy to get the knowledge on that. It works with the kind of the most common conditional such as where, if, and then also you can apply different selection of what do you want to see in every SQL query that you are executing. No, so at the end, what you have in Defender or Sentinel that are the Defender and Response solution and the CM solution of Microsoft, you have a group of tables, and in every table you can search for different information. No, on the left, for example, you see the cloud event tables. And you can specify, okay, inside of the cloud event tables, tell me all the different ISPs that are communicating in my tenant. So as you can see, it tells you all this information. And on the right side, also what you can do is enrich the SQL queries with external information, such an external list of ISPs and the associated autonomous system numbers. And it tells you also how many connections or other information related to these connectivities to the ISPs is related to this list that you are importing in the SQL. So now we show you these SQL queries in three scenarios. First one focus on signing attempts. Second one related to emails tagged as malicious or not malicious. And finally, also we show you some scenarios related to network, including the DOS case that I was talking about in the previous slides. So, which is key to be able to classify ISPs and ASN as potentially malicious or valid is percentage on radius. This will tell us which is the percentage of malicious threats, malicious activities. Ratio, based on the percentage, it will tell us which is the ratio that ISP is good or not. Distinct IPs, also really important, is not the same if we are receiving an attack or a threat from one IP, that can be just one person, or if they are using, for example, 200 distinct IPs, different IPs, to target or tenant. That's another type of I would say, attack. And then classification. As the end, this is a summary of my previous slides. If you block by IP, as you can see below, of the castle, will be complicated because you have a lot of IPs. If you go with domains, will be a bit easier. If you go with ISN, even easier. And if you are able to identify an ASP, you can really minimize and reduce the attack, because at the end you are grouping all these kind of associated domains and IPs that are inside of an internet service provider. So, first case, signing attempts. By the way, I will share all my slides with not hidden wiki, so you should be able to take the SQL queries. But if not, feel free to contact me, and I will share you also my Git repository. Signing attempts. So basically, how many ISPs has been trying to sign using my accounts of my tenants, of my users, and how many times the signing attempts has been valid or failure, success or not success. So this is really nice because, as you can see on top, I have this ISP, China Mobile, for example, located in China, and it's telling me that they have used more than different 200 IP, 276 to be exactly, and using all these distinct IPs, all signing attempts has been failure. So I don't need more info to take actions in case that I see a valid success here. If I see a valid success here, what I would do directly in my case, using SQL queries, but for example, you can configure them as detection rules, and detection rules can take actions. So if I have a valid, directly I will ask for a password reset and revoke token of the user, because it's the percentage and the radio that is a malicious case is really high. The same for the second one. I will not go one by one, but as you can see here, at the end is based on everyone. If you say, okay, for me, 50 distinct IPs is not enough to take this kind of decision to restart passwords and revoke tokens. Or if you say, okay, if I have more than 5, for me is enough to take action. So at the end is depending on everyone. Second scenario, in this case, I'm going to the email threads. No, either the Sentinel or Defender, when they detect an email as a threat, they tag it as a threat. They have 3 categories, which is spam, phishing, and malware. And then what you can do is also, based on ISPs or ASN, as you can see in the screenshot, specify, tell me how many emails has been detected as a threat, as you can see in the red box, and how many of them has been detected as valid. Valid means that has been delivered in the inbox and has not been tagged as a threat by Defender or Sentinel. So if we check the first case, the Leaser Web Netherlands is telling me that they have sent more than 200 different emails, and all of them has been tagged as a threat. But there is an important point here. They have just used one IP. So could be perfectly that is just one person that is triggering a malicious attack. In this case, I will not take actions of this ISP because it will be really risky. Could be that there are a lot of other people that is not using this ISP as malicious. But other stuff is when I go to Ponynet, which by the way, Ponynet is the screenshot that I showed you before from URL House that was explaining that take more than 50 days to, no, around 15 days of average to take a site down. So based on that fact, and based on this case that they are telling me 14 different IPs, all emails tagged as a threat, plus the reputation of the ISP or the ASN, for me, it's enough also to take action. So if I have other emails coming from Ponynet, also with detection rules, you can specify an action that say all emails coming from this ISP, move them to junk folder. So in this case, I prefer to have someone bothering me, hey, I had a pending email, and then research why this person was expecting an email from this ISP, than just allow that some email coming from this ISP is delivered and someone click and they access to some malware or some phishing URL. So as you can see, also we have other ones as WebGlove below from Czechia that also are more suspicious because they have used 45 different IPs. So also is a good indicator to at least discuss which can be possible actions to take against this ISP. So now let's go to the last scenario. This is really oriented to network. And what I'm doing here is as I'm classifying by type of connections. Okay, success and not success. This one is more difficult to have a decision or insights about what we can do. Because as you can see in the last column, suspicious percentage, um, sometimes is based on the not success connections. It can include just interrupted connections, another type of connection cases, and it's not enough to be able to take an action because it can be really risky and you can be blocking ISPs or connections that are valid. However, when you start to see cases where the timestamp, so timestamp is the days, no? For 7 days, this is a SQL query. For 7 days, you are seeing connections from a specific ISP. The average of the connections every day, based on these last 7 days, is, I don't know, 100 connections per day. But suddenly, you see that the connections per day is 4 times more than the average of these last 7 days, is when you start to be able to investigate why this ISP or this ISN is increasing this number of connections. So based on this SQL query, I show you the rest. I execute in some of my tenants, and it's telling me in the distinct days that during the last 6, 7, 8 days, they have seen connections from this ISN. The average connection by this number of days is these numbers, but the total connections are totally higher than this 80, this average connection, no? So this is where I am starting to investigate which are the type of connections that are being triggered by these different ISNs. If are all success, if are attempts connections, expected connections, and other ones. And based on that is when I can start to decide to investigate why this increase. If it's a new ISN, for example, also will tell me that suddenly I have from 0 to a specific number of connections. So at the end is kind of summary that give us more insights about that. And what I can say, for example, is that once I have investigated different connections, then I have been going to different OSINT as Abuse IPTV or VirusTotal, and is when I start to discover that the IPs associated to these ISPs in most of the cases are associated to malicious activity. So is what I would recommend if you execute that query I showed you before, or you adapt it for Sigma or another language for threat hunting. Once you have some insight, you can list all the IPs associated to this ISP and have a quick review about which is the reputation of their different IOCs in some OSINT, as you can see here. If you have cases like that, is when if I have some connections, I will research what is happening, because it should not be in most of the case, and based on the ratio that I was talking before, the most of the cases is because our malicious activity is behind, or the users are connecting to these places and they are in risk. So based on this last case, this last query that I was showing you for the ISPs and connections, also something that can be really nice is at the end, if you detect some ISN or ISPs that you know that the connections that are coming from these ISNs are good, are not malicious, are expected. If you have some exposed service, such as, I don't know, an application website, some intranet, some service like that, you could have a first replica to accept all the traffic from this kind of trusted ISNs or ISPs. But then if you have another connections that for you is suspicious based on these SQL queries, you could have a second replica. And in case that from these suspicious ISPs or ISNs, they are triggering some DDoS attack, at least the trusted ISNs will not be affected. And the performance will continue working perfectly for them. And the only affected ISNs will be the ones that at least we don't have identified. Of course, even if you have the option to have a third replica, you could directly identify some malicious ISNs as based on the SQL query that I showed you before. And in that way, also you can have more kind of a honeypot at the end, or honeynet, where so you can investigate what are the activities that they are triggering, no? Because at the end, if not, we are losing this visibility. This is a perfect option. I seen it in a company, and to be honest, looks really nice because they are gathering all the information. But of course, it's not as easy to implement sometimes, and it requires more structure, more investment. But it's a good way to react to the DDoS attacks. So this is all that I have. To add some additional insights, I can tell you that I'm adding on all this information of internet ISPs and ISNs in MISP. MISP is a malware sharing information platform where you can add different information about IOCs. And in my case, I'm adding these ISPs and ISNs information because it tells me and it helps me to correlate all the activities that has been associated to these ISPs or ISN. For me, it's really, really helpful. That's all from my side. If you have some questions, please feel free to ask. Happy to answer. And as I said, I will share also my slides.